Hello and welcome to episode 35 of the Large Format Photography Podcast. My name is Simon Forster and I'm joined by Andrew Bartram and Jenny Sampson. Hello Andrew.
Hi Simon.
Hello Jenny.
Hi Simon.
It's great to have you with us, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.
Right, well, first of all, let's get going, and the first thing I want to do is to say thank you to Andre Dominguez for being with us last week. That was last week, it was 2 weeks ago, but that was a really enjoyable show where Andre came on as a semi-noob and asked lots of questions, and we had help from a distinguished panel of previous guests and enthusiasts. So thank you again, Andre, and thank you all to everybody else that came along to help out on that one as well. And just as a point of note, some people are still waiting. I say some people, I don't know, perhaps nobody, but somebody might be waiting to see that show appear on YouTube, because we did actually record that as a video, but there's been a few hiccups along the way, so that show will go out when we get the chance. So and we'll put a note up in the Facebook and on our Instagram feed as well when that goes live. So let's head straight over to the Fens, and what's been happening, Andrew?
The 3 S's I've written down here. Now, for some people might think that's some kind of marketing term, and it probably is. It's probably 5 S's or 7 S's. So I've written down here: shoot, speed, and sweats. I was reminded by shoot by none other than Jimmy Hickford, who messaged me just as we were about to record. And Jimmy said, can't remember which of your podcasts, because, you know, I do loads clearly, which of your podcasts it was that you mentioned you dislike the term shooting photographs. And he says, I just saw this on another friend's page, and he points me to a photographer who I had heard of, but I hear of so many photographers and I forget them. But I don't know if Simon or Jenny, you've heard of Marketa Luskakova, Czech photographer. She, Wikipedia says, she's a Czech photographer known for a series of photographs taken in Slovakia, Britain and elsewhere, considered one of the best Czech social photographers to date. Since the 1990s, she's photographed children in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and also Poland. And she's reached the veritable age of 75 and has published several books. Anyway, apparently, the aforementioned Jimmy says, he posted this and says, this is on cultural differences. In the Czech, and this is what Marketa said, in the Czech language, the verb to photograph means to immortalize. When I came to Britain in 1975, I was shocked to learn that in English, the equivalent is to shoot. Well, you know, take photographs. Anyway, whether you say shooting or taking, I think it's horrible. I really think it's horrible. So when I say making a photograph, I'm not being pretentious. It's just because I can't think of another verb to use. Because I think shooting is just horrible. And taking, it's all one way, isn't it? It's either, you know what I mean? Am I just being old and grumpy, Jenny?
Well, I can't help but I do use the term shoot, but I've become very aware of some photographic communities changing that language, because it is it's not really a positive word. And for me, as a wet plate collodion photographer, I do make pictures. So
absolutely,
I try
you do, yeah.
So I have been using that word more and more often, because it is what I do. I make them.
Yeah. Well, you know, I share work on social media and you know, Instagram and all those other places in our Facebook group. But much of it, in fact, the majority of it is scanned prints, which I've made, you know. So it's a process, isn't it? And anyway, that's the first of the S's. This isn't all about me, of course, as we know.
I was just going to say,
carry on then.
While you're on that subject there, it definitely was our show. And
yes.
And I can't remember. I'm sort of racking my brain. I'm not sure if it was the Jack Lowe show or not. Possibly, maybe.
Yes, I think it was Jack. Yeah, the other wet collodion photographer.
And because I think you said making, and I think Jack picked up on it, and
he did.
There was a big discussion, and I was very, very quiet in the background because I use the word shoot all the time, and I just sat back on that and I listened to it. And I was thinking, I'm not going to say that, or I'm going to try not to say that ever again.
And do you know what really annoys me as well? And on one of the groups I'm part of, which is a great group, and the guys are all great in it. Well, mostly anyway. There's nearly always a post, and it's meant in the best possible, community spirit. There's that word again. Yeah. What are we all shooting this weekend? And I just put my head in my hands. I thought, oh no. So then I'll say, see, I'm in the darkroom with some foam of paper, and then I've got this hashtag now, which is shoot less, print more. But I think I'm just gonna lose followers if I carry on like this.
I actually posted once on Instagram, and I said something to the effect of, I was at a skate park, and I said something to the effect of, I'm shooting lots of girls today. And a friend of mine texted me very soon after I posted and said, are you sure you want to say what you said?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? I have no idea. And I looked at it. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's said really innocently. It's said really innocently, isn't it? Of course, we know that, but it just, I find I get irritated by lots of things as I get older.
Yeah, and language is changing. The meaning of words is changing, and it can have an effect.
It can, and for people of Simon and my generation, it's very easy to put your foot in your mouth very easily because, let's face it, we're two middle-aged white guys, and we don't. We don't go out of our way to offend people, but it's very easy these days to offend people if you just say inadvertently the wrong word. My daughter picks me up all the time. She's, she's training. She's very much into mental health issues. She's trained to be a social worker, and sometimes I say things just to kind of, poke, just to get a bit of a reaction. But if I say something inadvertently, she says, "Dad, you can't say that." I said, "Can't I?" Well, I've always said, "Well, you can't say it now." So it's very hard. Folk are really nice and they don't go out of the way to offend others, do they? And, things are said quite innocently.
The times they are changing.
Oh, indeed. So can I give you my second S? Because, I don't want this all to be about me. Speed. Now, you reminded me about this just before the show.
Yes.
I had another rant. This is all I've been doing since the last show is ranting. So I had another rant, and I can't actually remember what set it off. I had actually forgotten about it until you poked me with a stick about 10 minutes ago. And I think it was in some quarters there seems to be, whether it's a macho thing, I don't know, but the need to just take a film and just push it because, and so I grossly underexpose it really is what you're doing. And that can be fine, that can be fine, but not all the time, not just for the sake of it. Okay, folks, just don't do it. Stop it. So I actually, because what you're doing is underexposed. Oh yeah, and I'll recover it in the developer. No, you won't. You won't recover it because if it's not recorded on the film, you won't pull it out by magic. It's not like, you're not a magician. However, I do rate films faster on occasion. And of course, I rate HP5 in my Nikon F2, and I actually was amazed when I first did it, and I've not done it many times, at how much shadow detail it does retain. But you certainly get a different look. But please don't just do it for the sake of it, And I know there'll be people calling me a boomer, which actually I'm not. I think I'm a bit too young for that. And
you're doing a pretty good job, though.
I know, yeah. But actually, of course, in the post where I ranted, I did actually then say, but you know what, really, it's okay, isn't it? Ignore me. Most people do. But, if I'm making a print in the darkroom where I want finely graduated tones, I want to be able to see some shadows that, in the words of John Blakemore, who I often quote on this show, blacks that he calls living blacks, not dead blacks, living blacks. And you notice it in a lovely fiber print. If I'm aiming for that, right, I'm not going to be grossly underexposing my film. Okay. But if I'm not aiming for that, if I'm in a nightclub somewhere, or not that I go to nightclubs, at a gig, photographing the guitarist with his axe, with his face, with that guitar face he's got on, with all kind of in ecstasy, and he's holding his guitar because he's a man and he's really vibing out, isn't he? Then, you've got such a range of contrast there. You rate your film higher because you want to freeze it. You want to freeze it, and you don't worry about the shadows being unexposed. You're not looking for living shadows. So there's a time and a place, but don't do it all the time. Right. So that's that. And I take it you both agree with me.
No, but I'm going to give Jenny the opportunity to disagree with you first. But she might agree with you. I don't know. I've got plenty to say on that. But let's hear Jenny first, I think.
Well, let's see. I think
you don't
up until recently, I was a rule follower. I thought you had to do things a certain way. But I think it's really important to play around with your film, break the rules and just see what happens when you do. And in that way, you can then gain more control about, what it is that you want.
I bet you've got more friends than me, haven't you?
It's one of those things, you do what you want to do. And if you don't want to do those things, don't do it. And it is this attitude, though, isn't it? And I've got to tell you off of this now. It is this attitude that you think that things should be done in a certain way.
No, I don't. Yes, I qualified my statement.
No. And as you mentioned earlier, you're a really nice person. You don't want to cause any offence to anybody. All of those things, which are true. But it's still a matter of putting your very strong opinion on how something should be done and telling those people that know less than you how to do it.
M from Emulsive would be. I can hear him sharpening his pen. Not that he probably listens to this show.
Yeah. So I mean, the point being is, it's not your cup of tea.
It can be. No. And I use all sorts of films, and I do play around as well. Of course, I do.
Yeah.
But not for the sake of it. There's a time and a place, and also I think it helps to. So I'm saying things really to educate the masses. The uneducated.
Oh dear, you're doing it again.
I'm further. I've started digging again, haven't I?
Yeah. Stop.
Because you. But as Jenny says, you learn through playing around. You do. But if you keep playing around and never learn, then I think you're just missing out on so much,
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you don't want to. After playing around, you want to have a reason why you're shooting a certain way. Oh, I just said shooting.
Yes, it's fine, really.
Nobody's listening.
So, you want to be making pictures, exposing your film, however it is, for a particular reason. Not necessarily just for an effect. You play around to understand what the different effects are. And then, you use that knowledge to make the pictures that you want to make in the way that you want to make them.
Yeah. And if people who make darkroom prints aren't always looking to have, shadows that are living shadows.
I love that description, by the way.
Yeah, you can make good. Yeah, it's lovely. It's not I didn't coin that phrase. It was John Blakemore, who just is a proper fine art. I'm not going to define what that means, but fine art photographer. He shot lots of pictures of dead tulips. He became obsessed with tulips. Mm-hmm. So, I went on his workshop and he used the term living shadow. But not all pictures want the shadow. You might want to print it down and have deep blacks. But isn't it great to have a negative? Now, here I think I'm on safe ground. Isn't it great to have a negative that is flexible enough to either interpret the final print, or I guess you can do it in Lightroom or Photoshop. I don't know. I'm not skilled enough. Where you can have a final print which is either has your living blacks in it, or is black as a lump of coal. But you won't do that with a negative which has no detail in the shadows, and I think you just need to understand that and learn from it. And then you can, once you've learned all this stuff, I'm all for people soaking up knowledge and then being as creative as anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Like having that negative.
Good. I'm glad you agree. Let's move on then.
We could be friends.
I could say more, but I'm not going to. So yeah.
Good. I've got plenty to say. And the last one is non-contentious because I just want some help from you guys. I've now got this the sweats, the camera sweats, because I'm going to going to the English Lake District, Jenny, in a couple of weeks. Which, by American standards, is not all that grand, really. But it's we're proud of it. It's got some hills and mountains and lakes.
Well,
should I take a large format camera when you're with a family member?
Just a quick one there before you go on, and that's about compared to America. Taylor Swift has written a song about the Lake District in her latest album about how nice it is. So there you go.
All right, good. Well, I'm going in the middle of September, so all the kids will be back at school. So that's one annoyance out of the way. And
so you'll be with one other adult who's not a photographer.
Well, she carries my she carries my tripod. Simon, I can see his head in his hand.
This is going to be a car crash this week, I'm sure. Please continue.
So this is what I suggest.
Yeah.
Bring a picnic so you can hang out in a spot that's really beautiful, and then you can set up your camera and do your thing. Yeah. And is this your wife who's with you?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And
we're celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary while we're away. Oh no, we're not. That's this weekend. So I've got it wrong. So forget that. Rewind. We're not celebrating our 30th.
I was going to say, if you are, then don't bring it.
No, that's this weekend. We're away this weekend, and I'm not taking it then. I am taking another camera, but not large one. So I think that's really good advice. Take a picnic and pretend that you've arranged this trip to these standing stones or to this. So you love it here, Julie. This is just look. You take a poetry book. Who was a poet who wrote about the Lake District? Take one of his books, and it's nothing to do with me wanting to set up a large format camera.
That's
me done. That's me done. I've alienated enough people. For several shows. Right, well, it's your fault. Anyway, I'd forgotten about that shoot rant. Not shoot rant, speed rant.
Well then.
Until you reminded me about it. You deliberately set me up, Forster.
Well, you did say a few days ago, actually, that was in your original tweet. If Simon will let me talk about it. Well, I'll just careful what you wish for. Anyway, I'll be as brief as I can. What have I been up to? I've been printing things, and on the subject of printing things, that means with a 3D printer, and that's actually the noise that you can hear in the background, which I'm sorry, it's just going there, and it's just going to drone away, possibly for the length of this podcast. It may stop a little bit before, but I'm actually printing large format things, so I think it is actually allowed, because I've currently on the printer at the moment there are two 7x5 or 5x7, whichever way we say it these days, dark slides being printed for Steve Lloyd of Chroma Camera. So they're going to be going on to his that extension that we talked about this last time, didn't we? In the with Andre, because Steve Lloyd was part of the panel of experts that we had, and we had a little chat about his carbon adventure and how it can be it's like a modular system, and it allows although it's a 4x5 camera, it will allow 5x7 backs on it and things like that.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing, isn't it?
It is, and they're the things that I print for him, and so there's a few of those that are going to be going off to some customers quite soon by the looks of it. So that's all good.
And you're printing a dark slide, is that what you said?
Yeah, 3D printer. So the dark slide is actually plastic, and Steve's design it's pretty damn clever. Actually, it's very simple. If you've never seen anything like it before, you're thinking, "Oh, well done, Steve. That was really good." But Steve will freely admit that he's copied a design that's about 120 years old, because the old. Well, you'll be familiar with these actually. Dark slides, the wooden dark slides that you would get for plate cameras, they would pull out part way and then they fold back on themselves, or some of them do at least anyway. And that's the principle of these. So although they're plastic, they've got cutaways on them, so they've got deliberate weak points. And then he uses a certain kind of vinyl that goes on one side of them, so it gives the flexibility some strength. And the other parts are well, actually he's building holders as well, but that's not this is more about the back of the camera. But these actually I'm not entirely sure what these are actually for, actually, because I know he's doing dark slides for plates.
For the plate holder.
Yeah.
Slide in there.
Yeah, but I'm not entirely sure that's what these are for. I don't
Well,
know.
the background to this, Jenny, is there was a Kickstarter which was launched, I don't know, a year, 18 months ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
And it was a joint venture between Steve Lloyd, who runs Chroma Camera, and I've forgotten his name.
Jason
Quick,
Lane.
help me out. Jason Lane.
J Lane dry plates.
Who makes the brilliant J Lane dry plates, of which I didn't get time to tell you about that, which would have probably been better, safer ground for me than talk about the 3S's. So they did this joint venture on Kickstarter to make the first commercially produced, in a while anyway, dry plate holder. And I saw something Steve was posted just today, I think, some 4x10 holders for something or other. So Steve Lloyd's brilliant, because he's really investing in this large format community. There's that word again. And if you're not familiar with what he's up to, just go and have a look at Chroma cameras, Jenny.
Okay, yeah, I've got lots of notes here.
Yeah, you don't have to run off and do that, so don't worry.
No, not now. Later.
I won't go anywhere now.
So that's what's making a noise at the moment. And the other thing I've been up to, which again is 3D printer related, is I've printed off a Kraken, I should say, actually. Kraken. I mean, the person who designed
Isn't that a sea monster?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but the person who designed it, Graham Young of the Homemade Camera Podcast, he once called it Kraken, and that's stuck in my head now, having heard him say it. It's the Kraken 612, so it's a 6x12 3D.
It's a cracking good camera as well, isn't it?
It is a crack. There have been so many puns, and
okay. I thought I was being original then.
No, not even close. Because on one of the episodes of the Homemade Camera Podcast, they were talking about durability of these printed cameras, and Graham was saying that I fell over and landed on it as I fell down into a pit or something on those lines. And Ethan Moses, previous guest on the show, he just comes up. Did you crack it? Did you crack in it? That's it. I can't say it properly.
Put a crack in it.
Yeah, no. Did you crack in it? That was what he said. I was trying to do an accent. And I was thinking, what accent was I trying to pull there?
It wasn't really. I'd stay away from accents if I were you.
Yeah, definitely. So, but the connection with large format there is 6x12 is, well, it's certainly a long format for 120 film, but to get coverage of that, you really need to have a large format lens. And this whole system is based around using large format lenses, I think from about maybe 50-ish all the way up to about 180. And the camera stays the same, and what you do, you just build or print a different size cone for the lens to sit on, and then you've got what they call a focusing helicoid to get your focus distance right. All this can get very technical very quickly, so I'll brush over that. And I'm using my 75mm Grandagon or Grandagan, as they say in Scotland, as we hear. And so that's 75mm. And that's giving me a really wide field of view on a 6x12 camera with that 2-to-1 ratio, which is actually what I actually really
so
like.
my question is, I saw that Kraken and thought it looked great what you'd printed. And how long did it take to print? And if one doesn't have a printer, are they available as a sort of saleable item, either from you or from other folks?
We're slightly jumping ahead of ourselves there, but I don't mind saying it. Great. Well, Graham will print one off you, but he's in America. But if you're in Europe and there's things coming over from the States is always going to be expensive with,
of course,
with import duties and taxes and so on. I'm in discussion with Graham at the moment about actually producing these cameras over here.
Yeah.
But it's a tricky thing to work out the price and things like that, because it does take a long time to build these. And at the end of the day, I have a small 3D printing business, and if I'm printing those, then I'm not printing other things to make money. So it's a case of it's finding the balance.
It's an opportunity cost, really, that you've got to take into account, isn't it? So
exactly. So
cost of what you could be doing in that time to make money while it's churning out a cracking camera.
Exactly. But I do want to do it because it's cracking.
Yeah. Well, you just need to invest in, get your 3D printer to print more 3D printers.
That's it.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm reading a science fiction book at the moment where it's blowing my mind, but these little replicants are colonizing the universe and using the materials they find around planets to scavenge and build more of themselves, and also build more 3D printers. And I suppose it's all possible in the future. Yeah.
Don't see why not. So that's me. So Jenny,
Yes.
what have you been up to?
Well, let's see. I've actually been kind of dealing with a lot of press-related things. So been doing some interviews and stuff like that, all stemming from my skater book, my girls' skater book, and the BBC article that came out, which is how we found each other. You found me. So I've been working on that. I've also been playing around with lumen prints, which I had never played around with before, but during the shelter-in-place time and my local photography community, there's been a lot of sharing of that kind of thing. So I live in Berkeley, California, across the bay from San Francisco. My darkroom is in San Francisco. I went over there and brought a bunch of old photography paper back and started making some lumen prints, experimenting with that while I'm stuck at home doing other photography things. That's me. That's what I've been doing. Keeping busy.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where Andrew normally would start talking now, because I know nothing about lumen prints, but I know Andrew does.
Well, are you talking about laying things on paper, or are you talking about using a lumen box type camera? Because people are making
the other way, and I didn't know what they were either. Sorry. Yeah. I had no idea what they were, but people were making them and making lumen print postcards and sending them. And I signed up. I asked one of the photographers who lives in the area. I sent her my address and she sent me one. And so I started Googling it, like, what the hell is this? And they're just, I was just sticking leaves and flowers and things on paper and putting a piece of glass on top. And I started with just some RC paper that I had at home. I had some Ilford RC, and I had some Kodak color RC. I had taken a color printing class years ago and just had the paper left over. So I first experimented with those two papers, and it was super fun and so easy. And I could do other things at the same time. It's not like I had to hang out with it outside. I just put it outside and then continued on my day indoors and would look at it, see how it goes, and then just stick it in the fixer and then wash it. That was it. It seems so easy.
So with the black and white paper, do you get colors like you do with doing, if you do a solargraph in a tin can, you get you just put normal black and white paper in, but you get weird colors.
Yeah, you do get weird colors. They're really beautiful. I mean, purples and oranges and stuff like that. But then you stick it in the fixer and it changes.
Okay.
So I need to.
What does it change to when you put it in the fixer? What happens to it?
It changes to more of, well, let's see. The unexposed part is white and a little orange, and then the exposed part is it's almost like the white of a tintype, which is not white. It's kind of a grayish.
Yeah.
And then the color paper was more blue. The exposed part was more blue. and purple. And then when I fixed it, oh my gosh, where is it? It got a little more dull. And I saw some people documenting their lumen prints before fixing them because the color changes were so dramatic. I haven't really done much of that yet because I'm too new to it. I was afraid that I was going to ruin the print if I waited too much longer before putting it in the fixer. So,
and are you using some kind of printing frame with a hinge back so you can check the progress like you would do with
I've done a little bit of that.
Gun printing.
I started just by taking a piece of cardboard, putting some of the oregano that's growing in my yard, and then putting a piece of glass on top of it. And that was it. Like super simple,
Yep.
And then
I'm being nosy now. How did you judge how long to, in those early experiments, how long to do it for, expose it for?
I based it a little bit on just research. Some people were saying it took a few hours. So because it was RC paper, I didn't really care too much about it. It's not that expensive. I've had it for so long. And so I just let it sit for a few hours. I could kind of look, I just looked, I didn't peel back anything. I just looked at it and took a chance. Then when I went to my dark room in the city and brought back this old paper. So I should preface this by saying I use a dark room in the city that my dad built before I was born. And
Fantastic.
There's tons of his old paper there. And some of it is fogged, can't use it, which I also read about with lumen prints. You can use fogged paper and you can make lumen prints and it's fine. So I thought, oh, this is great. It's a box of 300 sheets of 11 by 14 Kodak fiber paper. It weighs about 30 pounds. It's so heavy. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can just play around. There's so much of this paper. And so, and there was other nice old paper, some Agfa and stuff like that. And I do have an 8 by 10, what do you call it? The printout frame.
Yep.
And so with that one, I did check it because the paper I was using is more valuable and I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to risk throwing it away, And then I just made a judgment, I'd peel it back, I'd look, put it back out again. I mean, it can take a long time, hours and hours in the bright sun. And then depending what it is that you're printing, it sweats and there's condensation in there, and that can have an effect on the lumen print as well. So
some people sprinkle a bit of water to, I think, accentuate that effect.
Sure, yeah.
Have you heard? There's another interesting. You've just got my mind going now. I've got a book somewhere which documents all these different processes. I think it's called arthrotype, but I might have slightly got it wrong. And this is.
Yes.
So you take something like beetroot or pretty much anything that's growing in the garden and you pulp it up and that becomes a photo set. I don't know how all this works. You can coat it onto watercolor paper and then put your feathers or whatever you want on it or your plants, I suppose. And that introduces another layer of sort of colors and stuff. So
it's
I'm
amazing.
really struggling, but I think it's called arthrotype. But I'll write it down.
I think so. I recognize that word, that name, and I think just from the last 6 months, because we're all stuck at home and
they're doing this stuff, aren't they?
Everybody's experimenting with stuff.
Everyone's either making cyanotypes or lumen prints. I think that I'm surprised it passed you by, Simon. Have you not seen it? And they are beautiful, and I like the idea. I have a box of Ilford postcard paper, which I periodically make prints and send them to people. Very often I go online and say, would you like me to send a postcard? And sometimes I keep my fingers crossed because people around the world say, and I end up having about 50 to send out and it gets expensive, doesn't it?
That is exactly what is happening here, especially because our postal service needs business. And so everybody's like, send postcards. Yeah. And I actually just went to buy some Ilford postcard paper, the same that you're talking about. And my local photo store was sold out, so I had to pre-order it because everyone is doing that right now.
Yeah. It's great stuff, and there are little postcard exchanges running online. You can, if you're not in one, you can start your own, and they're lovely things to do. And I regularly make postcard prints and post them to people. But it didn't occur to me to put some leaves or flowers on them and make some lumen prints. I might try that if we ever see the sun again over here.
Yeah, well, maybe you just leave it out for a week. And eventually the UVs will...
Well, I've got a UV, for when I occasionally do salt printing, a UV light source. So I could do that.
Sure. Yeah.
That'd work, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I had these dried grass seeds in a bowl for years that I was going to make tintypes of. And I ended up making lumen prints with them instead, years later.
People have found so many ways during the lockdown period, which, really isn't over, because we're seeing increases in all these infection rates all over the world, aren't we? So people have still got to be careful, and and some people just go crazy when they can't interact in the way they'd normally do. So some artistic outlet as simple as laying flowers on a piece of card and getting a basic photographic fixer, because that's all you need, I guess, isn't it?
It's so true. I mean,
don't fix it. Sorry, or don't fix it. And if you want to preserve those colors, just scan it and accept it's a ephemeral thing and it's going to fade away. And that's part of the art as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll try that next time. I'll just do it with the RC paper.
Or you can just send a blank card through the post. Here's a really easy way, okay? A blank card through the post, and then you write on the back and say, here's my lovely lumen print. I didn't fix it because I love the colours. And they get it at the other end and say, well, nothing. I must have faded in the post. There you go. That's an easy way to do a lumen print.
Pure photo geek humor right there. That's great.
Well, that's probably a good time to this will be a relatively short introduction, but let's introduce our guest as properly as we can. So welcome again to the podcast, Jenny.
Thank you.
And you've already done my introduction for me already, and that is I was, as I usually do, I was on the BBC .co.uk website, which is like one of the first places I go in the morning to find out what's been going on in the world. And I was searching on there. I'm not sure if it was a front page thing or whether it was just a side article down the side, but my eye, as anybody that listens to this podcast, will be drawn to a large format photograph, no matter where it is, especially if it's in a place where it sort of like doesn't belong. And I could see a large format photograph, and not only that, it wasn't just any large format photograph. It was a wet plate collodion shot. Shot? No, it wasn't a shot. It was an image. It was a beautifully made image, and
rated at 64,000 ISO as well. Yeah. I bet. Yes, just because you can. And let's put another layer of collodion on it and make it faster.
Yeah, and so it was a case of my eye was drawn, and I immediately clicked on the link, and I've got it back in front of me at the moment now, and it's called Skater Girls: Gender, Joy, and Slow Photography. And as let's face it, everybody's wet plate collodion photographs draw your eye, and because it's just such a different way of taking photographs. But looking at Jenny's photographs, they immediately jump out at you because of the subject matter is just not. I mean, is there a stereotypical wet plate image? I don't certainly in the modern world I don't think so, but certainly when I looked at Jenny's images and skater girls, and also like the way that the portraits are taken, there's just, apart from like the subject matter being different, just the way the photographs are look and the way that the people are posed, there's also something. It's modern and old at the same time, and I can't quite put my finger on what's going on there. But digging into this a little bit more, Jenny was born in California, in San Francisco, and as we've already heard now, she's moved over the bridge and in Berkeley. And the other thing that caught my eye this evening, in fact, is something that you're involved in. It's a collective, and it's called the Rolls and Tubes Collective. Which is pretty fascinating stuff as well. So there's loads for us to talk about. But first of all, let's do the obligatory first question. Could you tell us a bit about yourself so that our listeners that don't know you already can work out who you are, how you got here, and how on earth you ended up taking pictures of skater girls with wet collodion?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in San Francisco. I'm a third generation San Franciscan, fifth generation Californian. I've got photography in my blood. My first cousin twice removed, my grandmother's first cousin, Alma Lavinson, was part of the F-64 group.
Ooh, I recognize that name. That's amazing.
Yeah, yes. And I, when I was in college, I think I was in college, my parents were realizing that I was really taking seriously photography, and Alma was old and not well, and so I did get a chance to meet her before she passed away. I really wish I had known her earlier and just kind of known more about that, but such is life. Her work is incredible, and anyway, so I've been making pictures for a very long time. I learned as a child to process film and make prints in grammar school, and I always loved it. My dad always had a camera. We had family slideshow nights. We had family movie night, Super 8, and it was just it was always part of my life. My dad always had a camera. We would travel, we would camp. He always was taking pictures. And so my brother, who's about 3 years older, got into photography in school, and I just wanted to be like him also. So it just was always something I was interested in doing. And although I took courses in school, I was a psychobiology major instead, because I didn't think I was allowed to be a quote unquote artist. And,
what's psychobiology? Sorry,
psychobiology is the biological side of psychology. So it has a lot to do with the chemistry in the brain and how that affects behavior.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating and interesting. I liked science, I liked chemistry and all that stuff. So it allowed me to do that all the while taking pictures and living in the darkroom while I was in college. And then after school, I just continued shooting and bought taking pictures. I got my first medium format camera. And so started making square pictures and just continued on, had jobs here and there, whatever, but always photography was in the background. And I would, and then my dad also, I think right after college, introduced me to the darkroom that he built before I was born. And so it's a darkroom I still use to this day. It's in the basement of a 4-unit apartment building in the city. And it's a teeny tiny little dark room in there. I use his enlarger, all of his paper. I mean, I've of course added to the paper stock, but there were receipts from Adolf Gasser's, which was the photography supply store I used as well. His were from the 60s. So it just, I just continued doing that alongside having regular jobs and stuff like that. I continued with black and white photography until about 2007. I started thinking about other ways of making pictures, whether it was, I took a color printing class, actually. I took a platinum palladium course. I took copper plate class. I just was trying to kind of expand my photographic horizons. Digital was coming into play, but it was never something I was interested in. And then I took a wet plate clothing class. I saw a tintype at Rayco Photo Center, which is no longer with us, in San Francisco. It was a fantastic photography center that had exhibition space and a digital lab, wet labs, color and black and white, and just a fantastic community of people. And I would print there because my little darkroom, I can't print anything bigger than 11 by 14. So when I was printing 16 by 20, I was doing that at Rayco. I also learned how to make mural prints there by projecting onto the wall. And I saw a contemporary tintype there. And I had never seen one before. I didn't even really know what they were. I had seen them in museums. But I saw this contemporary one made in the studio with flash, and it was so cool. I mean, it was holographic, tactile, just really beautiful. And so I signed up, and I immediately was hooked. And I, forgot about platinum, palladium, color, all the other things. And I just started acquiring equipment to make wet plate, and started buying all the chemistry to make the chemicals, and just kind of got obsessed with it, and stopped even taking pictures, like black and white pictures too. I just got completely sidetracked into this wet plate thing. And that was in 2009, I think. 2008. And then at the end of 2009, I started building a portable darkroom, because up until then I was stuck at home or using people's basements or whatever to make tintypes elsewhere. And I realized the need to be able to make them anywhere. So I built a portable darkroom, and the first place I went to test it out happened to be a skate park near my house in Berkeley. Am I going on too long?
No, I was going to ask you about the portable darkroom, but I'll come back to it. I've made a note. It's fine. Carry on.
I went to this skate park near my house, and I made a few portraits, and I immediately was like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. This is like way beyond anything I could have imagined it was going to be. I had, years before, I had been interested in photographing skateboarders, but I did not know how to approach them. I was not a skater, and they were intimidating, and I didn't know. It was not in me to just walk up to a group of people and say, hi, can I hang out with you and take your pictures? It just wasn't going to happen. So when I built the darkroom and went there, I made these portraits, and they were portraits unlike I ever had really made in the past. When I was shooting film, I photographed very much on the fly, and I was focused very much on gesture and posture, not a traditional portrait. And so making tintypes, as we all know, faces are just incredible. Eyes are incredible. And freckles and all these different textures and details come out in a tintype. And so it makes a straight on portrait very appealing. And so that's just kind of how I started making portraits of skaters. And it grew into just a 10-year thing.
Did you find, cast your mind back to that sort of first, when you finally went there with your portable darkroom and your whichever size plate camera it was, was that helpful, I would think, in terms of breaching the gap, was it? Because if you'd have gone there with a GoPro, I mean, they've probably all got GoPros stuck on the end of their skateboards, haven't they? So you're turning up with something which is immediately a conversation starter. What sort of reaction did you get when you first showed up?
Pretty positive. I mean, that is a big component as to like how I was even able to approach the skate park and the skaters, is that there's so much going on when you're making a tin type. You've got your dark room, you've got your chemistry, you've got your camera. You've got to set everything up. You've got your little chemistry lab right there on the sidewalk. So it does attract attention, but it also, all of that distracted me from my own shyness. And I convinced myself that I was just there to test out my equipment. And I was just going to walk up to someone and ask if I could make their portrait. And that was it. Like, it was as simple as that, but it's still hard. It was still hard. It's a lot easier now. And it taught me, oh my God, it taught me so many things. It has, like, this whole process has enriched my life in ways that I couldn't have imagined too, because it forces me to engage with strangers, talk to strangers. Often they see my camera. That's usually what attracts people to what I'm doing. They see my camera, because at a skate park, you're not going to see a big view camera. I mean, initially I was shooting 4x5, and now I with all the girl work and everything moving forward, I'm using an 8x10. And you know, those cameras attract attention. They just do, no matter where you are. And with skaters, you know, most of them really only know digital or phones. You know, they're not used to seeing analog photography, and nobody's used to seeing wet plate out at a skate park. You know, you can watch your face appear, and it blows everybody away.
Are you inviting your subject into your little crack den? Because I'm assuming you're wearing your Breaking Bad mask, are you, at this time when you're in?
Actually, I don't wear a mask.
Do you not?
I don't wear a mask. So when I was making 4x5 tin types, my dark room was a little box. It's about 3 feet wide, 1 foot deep, and about 1.5 feet, 2 feet high. I prop the lid open. I have a black piece of fabric that I tape to the box, and I just nestle under. And I'm kneeling on the ground. So I'm just tucked in there. And then when it comes time to fix, I come out of there and I fix everything out in the open. So, and now for the 8x10 work, I have, my dark room is, I can stand in there. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot tent. And I don't bring people in there. It's pretty tight. But I still fix outdoors. I develop the plate, I wash it, and then I come outside and I fix it outside in the daylight. So the person who I photographed or anyone who's around can watch the fixing, the clearing of the plate, which is truly like the magical part of the process.
That's where things reveal. I mean, I've only dabbled around with dry plates, and I'm doing that under a red light. But I could probably turn the light on, I guess. But I haven't done so. But you can see that clearing process, can't you? It's interesting.
Oh God, it's just incredible. I mean, it really is what hooked me. When I took the class at Rayco Photo Center, I remember standing in the dark room. We were in a group dark room and watching that plate clear. And I literally was jumping up and down. I was jumping up and down. Nobody else was. I was like, what is your problem? It just blew me away. It was so beautiful. And it uncovered this secret thing that happens in the developing tank that we don't get to see when we're processing film. And just I loved it. The magic.
So your dark room, portable dark room, I was imagining something in a trailer or like a a camper van or something, but is this something that you're having to erect on location?
Yes. So, especially because of my subject matter, skate parks are not always right by your.
True. You couldn't drive a great big, truck in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just kind of how it went. I bought a little wagon. It takes a few trips to get all my stuff to wherever it is I'm setting up. It would be a whole lot easier to work out of my car or a trailer, but then I can't get to where I need to be. And and also with photographing skateboarders, the experience is not immediate. It's not, I can go there and hang out for 6 hours and nothing will happen. Either no one's there or it's hard to garner attention. Skaters are there to skate. I always hope that they'll see my camera and come up to me.
How can they not?
They're really they're pretty focused on what it is they're doing. I mean, sometimes they're just hanging out, shooting the shit and whatever, but they'll look at me, but they won't come and talk to me. They're shy too. That's the whole thing. It's it's not an easy thing necessarily to just walk up to someone and be like, hey, can I take your picture?
Well, they found their little subcultures and we found our little subcultures, and it's a lot easier to interact within your own little world, isn't it, than having to break out of that subculture.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it has become easier. I have had to get over these hurdles of just being shy and not being able to walk up to somebody and say that. But in fact, that works really well. You can walk up to a group of people and say hi. and also, as I made more and more tintypes, I could show them what I was doing. And generally, anyone who saw one would say, yeah, let's do it. Oh, I have a friend over there. Let me get them. So sometimes it would.
So when, I was going to say, when you first went there, was it your intention to actually make photos of the girls that are there, the women that are there skating, or was it a case of that's a location I want to go to, and this is just something that happened? Because I mean, I've just going back to the BBC report, it suggested that you were amazed by how many women there actually were there. So was that a deliberate thing, or was that just a coincidental?
It was coincidental. So I started photographing skateboarders in 2010, and I would just go to any skate park. I didn't really want to go to super, super popular big ones. People would say, oh, you should go to Venice in LA. And I really just wanted to go to neighborhood skate parks, and just photograph anyone who was skating there, guys or girls. It didn't matter to me. So the first book, Skaters, is anyone. It's not guy skaters, it's just skaters. And there may be five or six female skaters in that book. And as I mentioned in the BBC article, when I was finishing up deadlines for that book, I was at a skate park in Emeryville, which is near Berkeley, and there just happened to be this group of girls there, and I was super psyched because I was always really happy to see women skating, girls, women, because they weren't as common. I did not come upon as many of them, and skaters are badass. And so to see a girl skater, it just, I know it is an intimidating environment anyway, and it can be tough, or it actually used to be more tough, I think, in the 90s. The skater landscape has changed a lot over the years. But I just, I think they just were super cool, to me. And so anyway, I saw this group of girls, and it happened to be a day that was actually really, really challenging for me. I set up. It was, I think, the second time I had set up at that skate park. I had had a really good experience the first time. And so my confidence level was pretty good when I set up. But then when I was there, like nothing was happening. Nobody would pay any attention to me. I couldn't get anybody's eye contact. It was just challenging. And I started going down this spiral. And then I saw this group of girls and they weren't paying attention to me either. I always think, oh, I'm a girl, they're girls, we're going to notice each other, it's going to be perfect, but it just isn't that way necessarily. And so I was about to actually pack everything up and go home. It was one of those moments that was not very pretty inside my head. And I finally was like, all right, Jenny, like, this is your job. If you don't do this, what the hell are you doing? So I got my book because I had a book dummy at the time. I marched across the skate park. I had to walk through it. I went to where the pool was, and they were all looking down into the pool watching skaters, and I just walked up to them and was like, hi, with a big smile because I'm a smiley person, and they turn around, huge smiles. They were just amazing. I talked to them for a minute, and they all followed me back to my dark room, my camera. I made photographs of all of them, tintypes. One of them, her name's Eulalia. I remember she said she hates having her picture taken. She just gets really insecure and self-conscious. And I made it so easy for her, which made me feel so good because I want everyone to feel comfortable. They have to be themselves and comfortable in order to sit in front of a camera for 5 minutes. That's not how long it takes to take the picture, but to set it up and all that, it can be a little disconcerting to sit in front of a giant camera for a long time. So that was very encouraging. But they also told me about this organization called Skate Like a Girl that I had never heard of. And Skate Like a Girl was having some event in Santa Rosa in the coming month. And so I looked them up and I ended up going to that event. And it was all about girl skaters. They were showing a movie, a film called, I think it was called Quit Your Day Job, starring a bunch of girl skaters, pro girl skaters. And it was, all of that was just a huge turning point for me because I just didn't know that they were around.
I was going to say, because it sounds as if like a light bulb went on, and this is, was it as clear as that? Is this is it? This is what I need to do next? Did that just happen to you?
It was immediate. It was immediate when I was photographing those girls and they told me about the organization. I was like, because I knew if I just continued doing what I was doing, it's so few and far between I would come upon girls. And it is, it's hours and hours spent at skate parks. And so when I found out about this and they could be accessible to me in a more concentrated way, I immediately was like, all right, as soon as I get this book done, I am only going to shoot girls. Oh, there, I said it. I'm only going to only make portraits of the girls. Because, at that point, I knew more about skateboarding than a lot of my non-skateboard community, world, family knew, and I didn't know about them. So, and I had even looked them up to try to find out more about them. And I don't know if I was entering in the wrong Google searches or what, but it was just hard to find what I was hoping to find. Thrasher focuses so much on the guys. They in the history of Thrasher, I think they've had girls on 3 covers.
What's Thrasher? Sorry.
Thrasher is a skateboarding magazine.
Okay.
Probably one of the most famous ones, and the one that is still alive and strong. I know a lot about skateboarding. As a non-skater, I know a lot about skateboarding now.
Is that that's very much focuses on the sort of male-dominated world of
Yeah.
skateboarding, which is what a lot of us think about, to be honest, isn't it? Really?
Exactly. Yeah. But they are focusing more on female skaters, but it's still, it's still really male dominated.
So is there a difference in I mean, there's obviously differences there, but the world of female skating and male skating, I mean, it's probably easier for us. I mean, it's got to be said, the majority of people who listen to this podcast are male, but and so therefore we can potentially identify with what the male skater world might be like. How does the female skater world differ from the male?
That's a good question. The girl skater world is it is a really open, supportive, positive world. It is all of the organizations that I've gotten to know pretty well. They are very much interested in making sure that skateboarding is accessible to everyone, to marginalized groups of all sorts, to everyone. I've never been around such a positive community in my life, I don't think. And there's a lot of really empowered, strong young women in their 20s who are heading stuff up. And it's like, man, I mean, I was not there in my 20s at all. If I had this kind of a community, I don't know, who knows? Like, it just, it's super inspiring. So, I mean, skaters are skaters, whether you're a guy or a girl. Like, ultimately, they're having fun. They're taking, they're taking chances. They're getting hurt. They're falling. And they're having loads of fun, and they're traveling all over the place. They've got their little posses, their skate teams and stuff like that. There's a lot of similarities between the guys and the girls. It's just that the girls haven't had a voice really as much as the guys. And I mean, that voice is definitely getting louder, and there has been more attention paid to them over the last like 3 years. It's kind of interesting to see how much the girl skater world has changed just in the time that I started focusing on them. There's been a huge shift. I don't know if that answered your question.
You didn't actually mention the word testosterone, because young 20-year-old testosterone-driven males, there's going to be a difference, isn't there? I would have thought. Or is that too simplistic?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I still feel like, in a sense, it's very similar because, I mean, historically, girls have, like, the historical skateboarding thing is it's tough. It's a guy thing. You're going to get hurt. It's not safe. Historically, especially from the 90s, like, kind of, am I allowed to swear?
It depends on how bad you are, really, but I might bleep.
They could be total assholes, and scary and not nice. But you know what? Girls can be like that too. But also, skateboarding as a whole is not like that as much anymore. I mean, it has become a very accepting and supportive community, and in a way it always has been. It's just it has been intimidating for guys and for girls to enter. But yeah, I mean, the stuff I see the girls do, maybe they're not going as high as the guys, but they are still shredding and getting hurt and doing things that personally I would be so afraid to do. They're fearless. They're all fearless. Skaters are fearless, period. guy or girl, testosterone or not.
The images that people can see just on this BBC post, which is just a small selection, the body of work. I've just, all the time you've been talking, I've been staring at the headline ones, which is just under the top. It's the Jasmine and Amelia, and they're just such powerful. Their inner strength and their characters just shine through. And I think Simon was alluding to this right at the beginning. It was like this is like a blending. They're almost like wet plate collodion, modern photographs, aren't they? We're used to seeing people having to stare into the camera with a clamp behind their neck for a minute or two. But these are, are you giving them any direction at all? I mean, what led that picture of? I presume it's Jasmine on the left, the one who's seated.
Yes.
I mean, it's such a dignified, powerful photograph. I mean.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, she must love it for a start, and you must be so. To produce something like that is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean,
what sort of direction would you give these girls when you're to make a picture like that?
So,
ladies,
I mentioned this earlier. What's the most important thing for me is that my subject is comfortable physically and emotionally. Yeah. Because otherwise it just simply, it won't work. You have to be still for a long period of time. I don't use the neck clamps or whatever. This is, I actually did just get one earlier this year, but it's really heavy, and one more thing to carry around with me is not looking forward to that. But I talk to them. I let them know what I'm doing. I ask them if they have ideas of how they want to stand or sit, that they can do anything they want as long as they can be still. Some people have ideas and they want to do a certain thing. And other times they'll say, can you, or I'll say, I can tell you what to do. Or if you have an idea, we can work on it together. So they are very collaborative. And I just talk them through the whole way. I tell them, to keep breathing. I tell them to keep blinking. And because the exposures are about, the shortest exposure is maybe a second or two. Usually they're around 3 or 4. And I just talk to them throughout the whole process. I'll say, keep blinking, because you can blink a million times and it doesn't show up. Just from experience, I know this. The one on the left, Jasmine, that one truly blew me away, because that particular one, she had just finished competing. She was exhausted. I was using a reflector. She was really sensitive to the light. I also tell my subjects to close their eyes until the last second, because I think that just helps relax people. Some people are totally comfortable in front of the camera. It doesn't matter. They don't need any help at all. Some people just don't, you can tell that they're a little uncomfortable. So, and also, I don't want them to get that weird starey eye thing. So I just tell them to close their eyes until we're ready, because it takes me a long time to get ready. We set up the shot while the plate is sensitizing in the darkroom in the silver. And then I'll go load the plate. I'll tell them they can relax. I'll go load the plate and come back. And then I have to do a final focus. So there's a long waiting time for them. And if I have them just sit there breathing with their eyes closed, they don't have to focus on the camera or how they look or whatever. They can just kind of get comfortable in their body, in their mind. So with Jasmine, I had a reflector going. She was very sensitive to the light. I just told her to keep her eyes closed until the very last second. So as I'm opening the dark slide, I said, okay, open your eyes. And she could barely open her eyes. It was very strange. And I was like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. but but you got to just go for it. And then I processed the plate and I was like, whoa. I mean, I just was thinking like Nefertiti,
Yeah. Yep.
it just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And that's one of the things I love about wet plate is you really do not know what you're going to get. At least for me. I mean, if you're shooting in studio with the same lights, and you can actually use a shutter, you can have an idea of what things are going to look like. Although everybody looks a little different. I mean, that's the other beauty of wet plate. But outdoors at skate parks, wherever I am, with different people hanging around, with different types of people, subjects, you just never really know how the plate's going to come out. And I am always something always surprises me or shocks me. I mean, still. And Jasmine was one of those. I couldn't believe it. I just lucked out. And then Amelia, I just love this one of Amelia. Just the shadow, her arm, the shadow against the wall, the texture, her expression. I mean, God, there's just so much like pride and power and just determination in there. I just love it.
Yeah. I think they're the two. They're all brilliant, but these two, and there's a reason I suspect the editors put them at the top, is because both of them in their sort of different ways are both such powerful images. And as I stare into the eyes of Amelia, she's it's eating into your soul almost, isn't it? With saying, well, this is who I am.
And she's young. She's like 14 or 15.
Is she really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, these girls just blow me away,
And another observation of your shots, you don't hide away from the fact that they're reversed. So there are lots of images where there's, it's a case of if somebody's wearing a T-shirt and it's got writing on it, then that's just how it is. But there are some shots that are posed, such as Candice. She's sitting on the sign, and obviously the words are back to front there, and it's interesting. You've chosen to do that. You've not looked at that and thought, oh no, we can't do that. It's backwards. So is that a decision that you make to show? It gives you that juxtaposition, I suppose.
Well, this is what the tintype looks like. Period. If I were to flip it, then I would be manipulating it digitally. This is it. If I had made an ambrotype, which is the same thing but on a piece of glass, and if it were a clear glass, then you have a glass negative and you could make a print. And in that way, it would be reversed. So basically what you're looking at when you look at a tintype is the emulsion side of the film. So this is what the tintype looks like. And so this is how I choose to show them.
They're each in a way one-off, aren't they? Unless you scan it, I suppose, and put it in a book. But it's like the old daguerreotype. In fact, I don't really know what the difference is. Do you know what the difference is? Daguerreotypes and tintypes. Is it much the same sort of thing?
Well, daguerreotypes are. My understanding is they were not portable, and they're extremely toxic because you're using mercury gas, and you're taking a copper plate and coating it with silver, and it's a much more intricate, dangerous, expensive process. But it is also it is on a plate. They are unique. They're one of a kind, and they're flipped. But wet plate collodion, when it came to the scene in 1851, it for the first time, photography was portable and affordable. And so there were itinerant photographers, on their horse and buggy with their dark rooms, traveling around making pictures of people, which couldn't really be done with daguerreotypes. You had to go to a studio and stuff like that. So.
And Andrew, there's a show I was involved in with Joseph Brungers. called the Large Format Photography Podcast, and he went through all of this with us.
Yeah, I know, but I can't remember. And also,
it was a while ago. Yeah.
Stuff doesn't always sink in. Probably, unless I do it,
Sure.
I don't always. Unless I actually do it, I don't always remember stuff. And my head's only so big.
Yeah.
I had to say that because Joseph was listening, and we are thinking.
I know.
So there you go.
I think more than one person have explained it to us. But before you debunked me there, someone might just be listening to this show and not listen to anyone else. So why wouldn't you just repeat stuff like this? The fact that I actually can't remember it, and if you tell me enough times, it might eventually sink in. I think when I do it,
if you know it, you understand it, and you hear somebody else talk about it, you can kind of follow along differently. And sometimes you just pick up on little details that may have been overlooked.
Yeah. Once we've had about 1,000 wet plate collodion guests on, I'll probably get it. But really, what we need to do, Simon, is go to visit our friend Dave Shrimpton, and he can show us, can't he? Well, and then I'll remember.
And that's exactly what's going to be happening sometime in September as well, isn't it?
So we are going to have a go at this ourselves, Jenny. And
good.
And
bring your skateboards.
No.
Do you still have them?
No.
I do. It's at my dad's house because he tends to use it for whenever he's moving things around the house. I can put them on the skateboard and steer.
I just got to imagine of your father. Is that how he broke his leg a couple of years ago when you were just on your skateboard in the lounge?
Oh, they're great for moving furniture. Skateboards, they're absolutely excellent. But that wasn't my 1977 skateboard, which was a California Free Spirit. I can still remember that. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't think it was made anywhere near California, but that's what it said on it because that was where all the cool kids were.
Sure, yeah.
So Jenny, Simon a little while ago, right? I think either on air or off air, I've actually forgotten now what was on and what was off. It all blends into one. Mentioned something else you're involved in, the Rolls and Tubes Collective. Now, Simon's clearly done his research because he knows what this is, but I've got no idea. So what's all that about?
Yeah, so the Rolls and Tubes Collective began in late March. This is a group of women. There are four of us. It's Colleen Mullins, Nicole White, Christy McDonald, and I. And we had a little, we called it our Girl Crit group, a little, photo critique group. And we had just started meeting about once a month to share work. And we were about to meet for our March meeting, and shelter in place started. So we couldn't. So we're like, okay, well, let's do one of these Zoom things. Zoom was brand new, of course, at least to most people. And about 2 hours before our meeting, Colleen said, okay, here's something. Recreate a famous or historical photograph using toilet paper. Because in the beginning of the shelter in place, I don't know if you guys heard, but there was a run on toilet paper here, and people were freaking out about.
And here too, around the world. It was
around
insane.
the world. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So people were really freaking out, buying up all the toilet paper. There is no toilet paper anywhere. And it was just like a fun little thing to do. So, so in 2 hours, we kind of scrambled on our own, and then we got together and we shared what we did. And mine was the Deanne Arbus twins. If you go to the Instagram Rolls and Tubes, you'll see it. And I actually can't remember what. Oh God, Nicole and Colleen did such incredible work. Christy was not there for the first couple. In any event, we were like, let's keep going. And so we did it for the next day. And then Colleen said, okay, I'm going to start an Instagram page. And we started posting every single day. Each one of us would recreate some contemporary or historical photograph utilizing toilet paper in some way or another. And it was a great distraction because, in the beginning of this pandemic, everybody, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Right? Like, this is crazy. What's going to happen? How long is it going to last? And it was a great distraction too. We all kind of dove into our respective photo book collections, just scouring, looking to see what we could recreate. We all had different ways of working. Some of us shoot film, some digital, some wet plate. And so we were all coming at it from our own personal experiences and methods. And I ended up doing mainly, I would build little dioramas or whatever using toilet paper. Other members would, create something, but then work it in Photoshop or whatever. Like, we just had different ways of making the work, and it just continued. Eventually we were like, okay, I can't do this every day. I literally can't do anything else besides this. And I have stuff I have to do. At the time I was actually editing for my Girl Skater book, and I had my dining room table was full of little prints of skater girls and toilet paper everywhere. I mean, it was kind of funny. And anyway, that's kind of what it is. And yeah, if you go to Rolls and Tubes on Instagram, you'll see all of our work. And how we would post it is we would post our creations. We would create or make up titles based on the original work's title. And then we would also post the original work. And it kind of became like an education in the history of photography too, because we all were finding different photographers, different images that were inspiring us. And
I've got to say, please go and visit this feed for Rolls and Tubes, because there's some fantastic stuff on there, and clearly there are definitely not enough people looking at this. But I mean, 493 followers. I just followed it, and there's so much surreal work. There's real high art in there.
Well,
comedy. It's fantastic.
Yeah. But Simon, what it is, I was just going through them, and I could recognise, or three of them. I thought, yeah, I know who that is. Obviously, Elliot Erwitt with a dog, and then
that was mine.
Was that yours? The toilet roll.
But it's
it's great fun to go through it and just see how many you can guess, or not guess, but recognise. The one with the toilet rolls in the basket, which was originally eggs, I think, and I can't remember. That was someone like, maybe it had been Edward Weston or someone, I don't know. I can't honestly remember.
That one.
Was that yours as well?
Yes.
Who was but then you can click on them, can't you, and see who they were inspired by. So this is a wonderful site for broadening your photographic horizons, because you can click on William Eggleston one. That's of the girl on the grass. I knew that straight away, which is the William Eggleston picture of the original is fantastic. But people would see that image of the girl in the floral dress with the red hair.
I love that.
You can go and look at the original, and you can just expand your photographic repertoire, because if you're not, go and buy a photo book, or whatever, or just look at it online. But what a fantastic way to stimulate. And there's so many here that it's not ringing a bell with, and I can't. Oh, Man Ray, there we go.
It has really been so incredible, because we each have different books. We each have different minds, everything. And I have learned about photographers I didn't ever know about,
Absolutely, yeah. That was Imogen Cunningham. See, what do I know? That's Imogen Cunningham, the one with the eggs, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that one, oh my God, that was, I still have that basket. It's just chicken wire. I had it in my backyard for something, and I started building it. And for 4 days, I was like sitting at my dining room table with wire cutters, clipping, like changing it. And I learned how to kind of weave a wire basket.
You can take yourself down so many rabbit holes with this, because if you're not different genres of photography. So you can jump into new topographics by looking at the water tower pictures, can't you? You know, the Hilda and whatever, Hiller and Bern Becker, who photographed all those things head on, and that takes you down another world at all of deadpan pictures of American suburbia expanding into the desert and gas stations and goodness knows. So there's a route to follow, sparked by that wonderful picture who did that one of the toilet of the new. Do we know? How do you know who posted it? The one with the water tower one.
Oh, the water. That's Nicole.
That's Nicole.
So the way you can tell who did them is by the right after the rolls and tubes, there is a initials in parentheses.
Okay.
And so
right.
that is Nicole White. She's
there
incredible.
we go. Yeah, I've got it now. Yeah, NW. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what she's done there, but that's incredible that she's done some clever witchcraft there to get the toilet rolls placed in the landscape to look like water towers.
She's incredible. She's so good. I mean, every time someone would post, it's like, oh my God, I have to up my game. Like, oh my God, what did they just do? Like, I'm not working hard enough. And then like you post something and they'll say the same thing about you. It just is like, it was great because the thing is, it was a frightening time. We just did not know what was going on. And here we are doing this laughing. It was a way to laugh about, laugh during an unknown, scary time. And also learn, educate ourselves, It
is a great way to discover new photographers, an easy way to discover new photographers. Because...
Yeah. And, I went through every photo book I have. And because I was building most of mine, there are only so many things I can recreate. And so then you go online, and it's like, all right, okay, female photographers, something like that, and just pull them up and just start looking through. Can I recreate? How do I do it? How do I build it? How can I make it?
Well, I'm with you, Simon. It's probably the most original and inspiring Instagram account I've followed. And the trouble is, it's going to lead me down. I love photo books, and it doesn't. In fact, this podcast, over the weeks and months and couple of years we've been doing it, I've actually then gone and bought books, or actually sometimes I've ordered them as we've been speaking to the guest.
Yes.
And I just love them. And this is, either new ones direct from the artist or on the second-hand market. But I can see this leading me down another hole. Sorry, carry on.
One. It's of course mine, but it's if you scroll down, it's I don't know, it's in the first, I guess 15, but it's actually a tintype.
Oh yeah. The two toilet rolls on the Keith. Is that the Keith?
It is.
Balls.
It's Anthony. It's after Anthony Berger's portrait of Lincoln, tintype portrait of Lincoln, and I was leading. I was like, I have to make a tintype of something, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. So I built this bust of a toilet paper Lincoln, and then I made a tintype of it. And I was quite proud of that one.
an amazing collection of work there, and because we're starting to wind things down. But there was we were chatting earlier, and you mentioned a friend of yours that does something very, very interesting with making lenses. Yes,
my friend Eric Mathy. It's Eric with a K. He makes dollar bill lenses. I thought it might be up your alley.
Oh yes.
His website is ericmathy.com, Mathy, and he builds his lenses. He's also an avid cyclist, and he has gone on cycling trips with his dollar bill lenses. And he is really a sweet guy, super chatty, super interesting, super positive. And actually, I think there is a documentary on him that is going to be shown at the Independent Film Festival in San Francisco. I'm trying to find where it is. But in any event, if you do go to his website, there is under current projects, there's a page on $1 at a time. I think that one discusses his dollar bill lenses.
Is he attaching those to cameras he's made himself, or large format cameras, or medium format cameras?
Or medium and large. He uses a piece of cardboard as the lens board. He has, during this time, actually built a camera also. But he just like creates stuff. And actually, I took a little workshop with him and built a lens as well. I keep forgetting to make a tintype with it, but I have made a tintype with one of his lenses before.
I'm I'm not actually on his page, but I googled him, and there's a East Bay Photo Collective.
That's how I met it.
There's a picture of one of these dollar bill cameras, and it's mounted in a speed graphic, and as you say, you've got a cardboard lens board. But the whole lot, it looks beyond homemade, and it amuses me that is marked. He's gone to the effort of marking where the centre of the lens board, and then just stuffed this note in there, as if like it really mattered whether it was in the middle or not. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
No, I think he's definitely somebody that we need to find out a little bit more about. Right, Jenny, it's been absolutely fantastic having you with us.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Right, now we'll do shout outs and a few other things, but there's just one thing we need to do before we do that, and that's to say thank you to those people that have donated to us, or rather the person that has donated to us since last time, and that is Christopher J. May. Thank you very much, Christopher. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, so let's do some shout outs, shall we? Andrew, have you got any shout outs this week?
Well, I did mention, courtesy of Jimmy Hickford, didn't I, Marketa Luskova. So I'll shout her out, because I'm going to look at a bit more of her work now. I'm just having a quick look as I talk. So that's a new photographer for me. Okay. Don't think it's large format, but who cares? Marketa Luskova.
Other formats are available.
They are, yes, or allowed. We don't have... all's good, isn't it? All's good, whatever. Yeah. Whether you want to push film, pull it.
You've seen
whether
you
whether you want to scratch it. Whether you want to set a fire to it, if that fits in with your vision, then it's all good.
You were almost doing well then, and there you go. Jenny, you've just had one shout out. Have you got any other shout outs?
I'm going to shout out for Skate Like a Girl.
Yes.
Fantastic organization, incredible women who. Had I not met them, I could not have created the work that I've made, and it led to so many other things. And anyway, I think I love them. I think they're a great organization. So I'm going to shout out to them and let more people know about them.
Okay. Well, I've got one shout out, and I'm really, really happy about this one, and that's to the Six Towns Darkroom in Stoke-on-Trent, in Tunstall, Stoke-on-Trent, which is back open again after 6 months of lockdown. We are now open on a Tuesday night from 7 o'clock till late, because as you know, time in a dark room goes it disappears. So if anybody fancies coming down and joining us on a Tuesday night, get in touch with me either via Twitter or the email address that's going to be given at the end of the show, or Instagram, get in touch with me first. Then the reason why I say that, apart from the fact you don't know where it is, the other one is we've got restrictions on numbers. So we don't want any more than 6 people in the club. And by the way, the club isn't just a dark room. There's a studio there, and there's plenty of space to actually socially distance, sitting there with your mask on, and just talk about stuff really. But there's also a dark room with several enlargers, including a 5x7 enlarger that was donated to us by Stephen Segersby. So thank you again for that one, Stephen. So absolutely delighted that that's back open. So yeah, get in touch with me if you want to come along and say hello to us. Right. So Jenny, you've got a book coming out.
Yes. It's called Skater Girls. Daylight Books is publishing this book for me, and it is due out in September. I'm just thrilled, and if anyone is interested in purchasing, you can do that through my website, jennysampson.com. You can also ask your local bookstore to carry it. There is distribution in Northern Europe and in England and UK and all that. And also Amazon. I like to support independent bookstores, though. And so anyway, those are all the different ways you can get it. And let's see, what else?
Instagram? You're on Instagram, aren't you?
Instagram. Yeah. Instagram, Jenny Sampson Photography. Mm-hmm. And
Are you on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else?
I am on, well, I actually just joined Twitter, but I don't really know very much about it. It's funny, when the BBC article came out, my cousin emailed me. She saw it before I did. And then my other cousin said, "You're trending on Twitter." Like, I don't know what that means. What do I do? So anyway, he guided me through. I opened up a Twitter account, but I don't know what to do with it. So, and then Facebook, I am on Facebook, Jenny Sampson. I don't think it's public. I probably should make a Jenny Sampson.
If it's a private account, it's a private account. It's just more about if you had a dedicated site to your work, as more so than just being on there.
Yeah, I think Instagram is the best place, and my website. Yeah, jennysampson.com is the website, and Jenny Sampson Photography is the Instagram.
Well, if you are on Facebook, and I'm glad Simon clarified it that you are, even if it's perhaps in a low key way. The best thing about Facebook, of course, are the groups, and we have a very interactive and friendly and super positive Facebook group called Large Format Photography Podcast. And funnily enough,
I will.
And if you want to hunt that out, and I probably can't invite you because can you only invite friends? I don't know how that works. But you can apply to join. You have to ask a question, and depending on how you answer it, Jenny, we may or may not let you in.
Large photography
format podcast, and the post that's sitting right at the top is the link to your BBC website that I shared earlier while we were chatting. Just to tell people that we were talking with you, so it's very, very live. We're very live and on the moment. But we'd love to. Oh, there, you've asked to join. There you go. Have you answered the question?
Oh, let's see.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I've let you in. It's fine. You're in. We've given you a pass, Jenny.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. I'm honored.
I'm just trying.
But yeah, stay. I always ask new members to say hello and introduce themselves and tell them, But you can say, "Here I am," and publish your book. Show where people can get your book and all that sort of stuff.
Will do.
And any pictures of your mobile darkroom, we love to see all that sort of stuff. And you can even put a picture of your camera on if you want to. That'll excite some folks.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
So for our bit, if people want to get in touch with us and they're not on Facebook, and there are plenty of people who don't like Facebook for good reasons. What's the best way to get in touch with us?
Well, they can email us, Simon.
That's a good idea.
They can email us by emailing largeformatphotographypodcast@gmail.com.
That's it. And that's not the large format photography podcast at gmail.com, is it?
Large format photography podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
And I know that I called it up on my phone deliberately because I knew you were going to ask me. And after 35 shows, I ought to be able to get it right, really.
And we do have an Instagram feed, which is not the most active, as in proactive, is perhaps a better way of putting it, because lots of people seem to be following us, and it's just largely me putting stuff out occasionally. But yeah, we do put things out onto that feed, but not as often as perhaps we should do. So
when we say we,
that's
it's you, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you wish to be delegated this role, Andrew, I
have 2 Instagram accounts already.
Yeah. Well, I do now.
It's a lot.
Exactly. Okay, so right, so have we done how to get in touch? Oh yeah. So outside of this show, Andrew, how can people keep up with the things you do?
On Twitter and Instagram, Warboys Snapper, and every couple of weeks as a co-host on the Lensless podcast, which is all about pinhole photography. And we're creeping closer to show 100, but it's pretty painful as we limp towards it.
I can be found doing another podcast called the Classic Lenses Podcast, and I think we're on about 130. No, we haven't done that. 128. We've done.
Well, you've kept that going weekly. I mean, we did it weekly for about a year and a half, and then. It's good on you for keeping it going weekly, but 2 weeks is pretty regular for us now.
Yeah, it fell down a bit over lockdown. Yeah, lots of things going on.
Or if you can get Johnny out of bed, he seems to be asleep all the time. So.
Yeah, and bad things going on in Hong Kong and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that. I'm on Twitter as Simon4. That's FOR. I'm on Instagram as Simon Forster Photographic, which is also the name of my website. Where I've been making things for Hamish Gill's Pixelator.
I saw that. That's that slide. You can now go to Simon's website and either download for free through Thingiverse, whatever that is, his little insert for scanning slides on the Pixelator, or he'll sell you one for £10,000.
Yeah, maybe less, but not much.
But it looks great. It looks very professional. I don't know. I don't mean to sound surprised, but it really does.
Yeah, well, it works pretty well too. So, But the thing is with the Pixelator, you can do 4x5 with it as well, because when you take all these gates and things out of it, it's sized to fit a 4x5 sheet. So that's great for digitizing there.
Well, you could use it for displaying a 4x5 transparency on your window, couldn't you? Or in the kitchen or somewhere with a window light behind it.
Actually,
that'd be lovely.
You just reminded me of something there. I took some pictures on some really slow ISO film, and I don't know what kind of film.
Didn't you push it?
No, I didn't. Well, maybe.
Can you rate it to
I didn't know what the rating.
6,400 or something?
I think I may have pushed it to 20, and I think I went too far. But what I particularly liked about it was I actually just liked looking at the negative. It was just a beautiful negative, and I think when I haven't tried to print it, but when I scanned it, I just prefer to look at the negative as it is. You know, just really, really nice. Anyway, that's a whole different matter. So, Jenny, thank you for your patience with Andrew in particular. I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless.
It's been great. Thank you.
You've been a delight to have on.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed every minute of sitting back and listening to you. And I think it'll give some hope and some solace for those folks. And I know there are a lot out there who just struggle with taking pictures of strangers, which is effectively what you're doing. Yeah. So it's very easy, folks. Just take a darkroom out into the streets and a large format camera, and all your problems are solved.
Exactly. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed listening to this week's show, and we'll be back in a fortnight. So goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.